Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United transfer news, takeover news, general update, and manager show news. And that didn't make sense, that intro, because I was just flicking with something on my screen. There is a lot of news going about, there's a lot of information going about, which would suggest that Ten Hag's future is not looking good, despite INEOS having meetings and no official decision yet. Inside sources, reliable sources, are basically saying, as far as they're aware, it's believed that Ten Hag will still likely leave despite winning the FA Cup. We'll get into that news. We're going to get into news on Thomas Tuchel. Fabrizio Romano has given an update on Thomas Tuchel. Now McKenna's out the picture, probably the most likely candidate to replace Ten Hag if he is sacked, which is looking increasingly likely. There's also a report coming out saying that INEOS are going to announce that Ten Hag is being sacked tomorrow, but that has come out from a very unreliable source, so I've not included it in today's video, but star level source saying that Ten Hag has already been sacked and they're going to announce it tomorrow. Unless someone reliable says that, I'm not going to report on it. And then we've got updates on Braithwaite, transfer plans going forward, and more. I'm just going to take a sip of water and dive into today's show, because my voice is hurting today. My throat's a bit sore, so I don't know how long the show will be, but I do want to get into news. I do want to get into the information. There's lots to talk to as well. Did anyone forget how Tuchel threw Kim and Jay under the bus during the Champions League game? Imagine if he does that at United, he won't last the season, which I said this in a live stream about a month ago, or not a month ago, a couple of weeks ago. I said, you can't do that to the Man United players, because the minute Rangnick did it, the minute the Man United players were in tears. You know, the thing about the Man United players is, even if they're bad, you can't say anything negative about them or they will strop. You know, look at the Sancho situation. Pep did the same with Guardiola, and look how Guardiola's responded. Sancho had a strop and refused to play for 4 months. That's something that's definitely a big problem at United. But let's dive into the news. Let's dive into the information. We're 2 minutes into the stream, and I've just been waffling this intro, so I do actually want to get the news and info up on the screen for you guys. Please hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. We've got lots and lots to talk to. Fofana, Garnacho, big changes going on, manager situation, Todibo, and more. So let's dive into it. Kaya says, get rid of the stroppy players, then don't need them. Yeah, I do think most of the problem players are out, but there's a couple of players we need to get rid of if they're going to strop about not playing and fall out with the manager and stuff as well. But yeah. Okay, so it was said by Fabrizio Romano, at the moment, the fact that Manchester United spoke to several agents of different managers gives the feeling that there is a concrete possibility to part ways with Ten Hag. However, no formal communication has been made and no decision has been made. So Romano is saying, look, the feeling behind the scenes, and this was said by Laurie Whitwell and this was said by David Ornstein, the feeling behind the scenes is that Ten Hag will likely be sacked because they're talking to other managers. But Romano, Ornstein, Whitwell, whoever United would brief, haven't actually got any official information on whether Ten Hag is going to stay or go at the club. They're saying, you know, it's sort of been said by Ornstein and Whitwell last week or a couple of days ago even. Insiders are suggesting it's very increasingly likely that Ten Hag will leave, but they cannot confirm this information because United have not said anything. It was also said that Man United parting ways with Ten Hag remains a strong possibility. So Romano does say, look, Man United parting ways with Ten Hag still remains likely. And in the case they do, there are several candidates to replace him. Thomas Tuchel would be very keen on becoming Man United manager, despite the club having no Champions League football. Tuchel knows it's a new project. So this is sort of the opening stories coming out by Romano and all of that as well. That it's still likely that Ten Hag will go. It's still likely that Ten Hag will be sacked, but no official decision has been communicated. Now McKenna's out the way. It's probably believed that Tuchel is the number one candidate, but we do know INEOS have doubts about Tuchel. Now, something I want to bring up, and this is just a theory because there's a few stories to get into. INEOS have doubts about Tuchel and whether he's sort of a long-term manager for Manchester United. They do. So could they be working on a surprise candidate? You know how it came out from nowhere. Could they be working on a surprise candidate? We've had conversations with Tuchel, Thomas Frank, Poch. Could they be working on something to do with Southgate, but it's going to take a while because of the Euros? Hopefully not. Could they be working on a deal for Pep Guardiola? Maybe, probably not. The thing with INEOS is, I wouldn't be surprised if we do appoint a new manager if it is someone completely out of the blue. I really wouldn't. I just think that INEOS are very sneaky, and they don't let the media know what they're doing. and that maybe Thomas Tuchel's side has put a lot of the information out about him getting the Man United job, because we know Thomas Tuchel wants the Man United job. Thomas Tuchel's been contacted, Thomas Frank's been contacted, McKenna's been contacted, Poch has been contacted. Some reports say Southgate's been contacted, but not many. Some reports say De Zerbi's been contacted, but not many. Graham Potter is one that's been looked at. Maybe INEOS go and get someone that we've not even been linked to at all. Now, the feeling right now for those inside Man United is that it's still likely Ten Hag will be sat and Thomas Tuchel's the most likely replacement. That's basically been said by all the reliable sources, but they're saying United have given us nothing. United have given us absolutely nothing. This is based off the information we knew before the FA Cup final. Alice, do you want Ten Hag to stay? I'd personally like Ten Hag to stay. I do think Tuchel's a good manager, but there's no manager I'm like sat Ten Hag for him. Maybe Pep Guardiola, but let's be honest, like for me, I'd like Ten Hag to stay and be given another year to see what he could do if he's working in the hierarchy of INEOS. INEOS are going to obviously employ this good hierarchy at United, hopefully, good structure at United. I'd like to see how Ten Hag does in a competent structure at Manchester United as well. Which brings me into the next couple of stories. It was said this morning by Romano that if Manchester United decide to sack Ten Hag following the internal review, Thomas Tuchel would be one of the names on their shortlist. He's very keen to return to the Premier League. It's very obvious that if we do sack Ten Hag, Thomas Tuchel is one of the names that is being strongly looked at. Now, there was a report that came out from Germany that Manchester United are in talks with Thomas Tuchel's agent right now to discuss a deal for him to become the next manager of Manchester United. However, it wasn't the most reliable source of information. It was very much a tier 3 source. We've got tier 3, tier 4, Star, Sun level sources coming out today saying that INEOS have decided to sack Ten Hag and that they've had conversations with Thomas Tuchel and all of that. Look, it's not going to be broken by the Star. It's not going to be broken by the Sun. It's not going to be broken by Footy Insider if Ten Hag is sacked and if they're going to bring in Tuchel to replace Ten Hag. I think those sources and this information coming out today that they've already decided to sack Ten Hag and replace him with Tuchel is absolute BS, because if it is going to be broken, it's going to come through Whitwell, Ornstein or Romano, or someone credible. It's not going to come through guesswork journalists that we've sacked Ten Hag and got Tuchel in. So that's why I'm not reporting on that story, because I don't think it's true. But Fabrizio Romano did add to that story that obviously Thomas Tuchel is generally one that Manchester United have been looking at. If they do sack Ten Hag, it's still likely they sack Ten Hag. But Romano continues to say, obviously, while it still remains likely they may sack Ten Hag, no official decision has been made on the manager front as well. The fans wanted Bruno out a month ago. It's crazy to think that some Man United fans wanted Bruno gone. When you look at like how many players aren't good enough, I just don't get why you'd want Bruno gone. Chelsea journalists are leaking all sorts of crap about Ten Hag leaving, but now McKenna's signing a new deal at Ipswich. Chelsea journalists have calm down on that as well. Surely Chelsea has shown that the manager market is not favourable at the moment. Stick to what you know. And I agree. Look, Maresca could be a great appointment for Chelsea and it could work out. But let's be honest, Maresca was Chelsea's third choice and the manager market isn't great. Why sack Poch to replace him with Maresca? I don't think Maresca is going to do a better job than Poch. Maybe that will prove me wrong. Maybe Maresca will do a better job than Poch. But I think Thomas Tuchel could do a better job than Ten Hag. But I don't know if Thomas Frank could do a better job than Ten Hag. Thomas Tuchel I understand to an extent. This season's not been good enough. He's a good manager. But if INEOS are imploring this long-term project, Thomas Tuchel doesn't always bring that. It was said, Alex B says, you can tell even Romano doesn't seem to have genuine connections with INEOS yet. Most of what he says is quite vague. Yeah. And the thing about Romano is, and the thing I like about Romano is he's not gone, okay, all these other sources are saying Ten Hag's going to be sacked. I'm going to jump on it because these are reliable sources. He still says, I've not been told anything. He just knows that Man United have contacted other managers because he's got, contacts with other managers. And he knows through Man United contacting other managers, those managers believe and those managers' agents believe that Ten Hag will be sacked because INEOS have led those agents of those managers to believe Ten Hag will be sacked because they are contacting them. So Romano's obviously got the belief that Ten Hag will be sacked. And despite the meetings and internal review going on, Romano hasn't received any new information to suggest that Ten Hag will stay. So Romano's saying, yes, it's increasingly likely Ten Hag will leave and Thomas Tuchel is one that's being looked at. But Romano said nothing is concrete, nothing is official. And I think that's why I like Romano, because we've got 4 or 5 sources coming out today saying that Ten Hag is going to be sacked. We've got 4 or 5 sources coming out today saying that Ten Hag is going to be sacked. And Romano's saying, well, actually, just remember, nothing's official. And I think that's what I like about Romano, because you can just rely on him as well. You can just rely on him to not spew rubbish because he's got such a big following. He doesn't need to chat rubbish. He just says what he knows. And even if he doesn't know a lot, at least he can give you guidance on this is what I know so far. No one knows anything. If Romano doesn't know it, no one knows it. You know what I mean? That's just Tuchel wants the United job, but he's out of INEOS's list at the moment because he's not British. I mean, look, INEOS don't have this British obsession. I know it's a little bit of a joke that INEOS are Brexit and British obsessed. INEOS definitely have a favourite for domestic. So players of the Premier League, proven players of the British, because you've obviously got to break the homegrown rule. But INEOS will be looking at who they think the best manager is. They're not going to bring Southgate in because he's British. I hope not. I don't think they will. Look, Brailsford is a big fan of Southgate, and Brailsford loves Southgate, but at the end of the day, Jason Wilcox knows stuff about football. Jason Wilcox is not going to sit there and let Brailsford sack Ten Hag and bring in Southgate because Brailsford likes Southgate. It would make absolutely no sense. Which continues me into the next story on the manager scenario, and then I want to get into transfer news, Todibo news, and all of that going around as well. Got a lot of rubbish going about. Top sources doing gossip, hoping one day they'll get something right. There's a lot of gossip and there's a lot of nonsense going about, and a lot of it's been spewed by Chelsea sources to sort of, mess with Manchester United a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think the top sources just don't want to say, the top sources aren't saying too much because I don't think they know. But there's a lot of sources going about saying that Ten Hag's already going to be sacked, and my computer's frozen. Oh, there we go. So there's a big mix of information going about, a massive mix of information. Your less reliable sources saying, oh, Ten Hag's going to be sacked, Ten Hag's going to be sacked. It's increasingly likely Ten Hag's going to be sacked, this, that. But I think, again, you've got to listen to Romano. No official decision, but it's swaying towards Ten Hag being sacked. The Muppeteers, who have received inside information, and quite good inside information these last couple of years, said this now. The situation is the same as last week. Erik Ten Hag is very likely to leave Manchester United. There is no new information yet to suggest otherwise. So, the Muppeteers are saying, as of last week, they got very strong information that Erik Ten Hag was going to leave Man United. The Muppeteers got very, very strong information that Erik Ten Hag was going to be sacked. He was going to leave Manchester United at the end of the season. Although nothing has been announced, maybe because he's won the FA Cup final, there's a good feeling they don't want to announce he's sacked. But also, as Melissa Reddy said, as Sky Sports said, they received strong indication that Ten Hag would be sacked, but that INEOS would not announce such decision until they're confident they can get a manager lined up, because they don't want to be in the situation where, Bayern sacked Thomas Tuchel, then had to ask Thomas Tuchel back because all the managers they wanted to replace Thomas Tuchel with, they could not get. So Melissa Reddy, Sky Sports, Muppeteers, all saying, and all these credible sources saying last week they received very strong information that Ten Hag will be sacked. They've not received any information this week to suggest that INEOS are changing their mind. The situation is that Ten Hag is still likely to leave. However, there seems to be a little bit of a twist in the vibe as well. There seems to be a little bit of a twist in the vibe going around Manchester United, in the sense of some sources are coming out to say, well, there's one or two people in INEOS's camp, key figures that are massively sticking up for Ten Hag and want Ten Hag to stay. What's sort of been said by someone who's got apparently inside sources, and this was an interesting story. This was said by someone who was quite reliable. He said INEOS's decision was to sack Ten Hag before the FA Cup final, but with McKenna signing a new contract and with the feel-good factor of fans behind Ten Hag and Ten Hag showing that he could beat Manchester City with a stronger squad, some of those in INEOS are having doubts whether it's the right decision to sack Ten Hag because they're not convinced on the alternatives. And one of the reasons it could be delayed is because there's one or two figures within INEOS and within the Manchester United staff and hierarchy that are fighting for Ten Hag to stay, but there's a couple people that made their mind up that Ten Hag will leave and they need to come to a final decision, and those inside INEOS really can't decide what the best final decision is. And I think if you can't decide what the best final decision is, keep with what you've got. That's what I think. Don't sack him if you're not convinced of the next manager. Keep what you've got. See what you can do. Could Ten Hag be the first Man United manager to break the cycle if he's given a third year? That's sort of the way that I see it in my mind as well. Guys, we've got nearly 400 people watching, so please do hit that like button, and of course subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new and want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news as well. We will dive into transfer news. We will dive into some stories at the moment as well. Someone said, I'll drive Ten Hag to the airport myself. Look, I can understand if INEOS sacked Ten Hag because you look at how statistically bad we've been. We've been like 17th for underlying numbers in the league, despite finishing 8th. The football we played is atrocious. Yes, we've had key players injured, but so have other sides. I mean, Brentford outplayed us with half their backline injured as well. I can understand if INEOS sacked Ten Hag because the football we saw this season was awful. The stubbornness to play Anthony over Ahmad for so long, Eriksen over Amrabat for so long, even though Amrabat was his own signing. I mean, Eriksen was as well, to be fair. I can understand if Ten Hag is sacked, and I can understand people being Ten Hag out. I'm going to tell people, oh, you're silly for being Ten Hag out, because I think there's a divide in the fan base, Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. I think I can look at it from both ways and understand it from both ways. I want Ten Hag to stay because I think a third season where he's back properly in a good environment at Manchester United, he can succeed. And then the main reason I want Ten Hag to stay is people are saying, oh yeah, but this manager plays good football. We wanted Ten Hag because he played good football at Ajax. He came to United, he can't play good football. Ragnick played good football, came to United. Football. I'm Ten Hag in because people, yes, these other managers play better football than us, but I don't believe they're going to come to United and play good football with this squad unless the recruitment is absolutely spot on this summer. I know Ten Hag can play good football. We saw Ten Hag win 2 trophies in 2 years. We know we can win trophies. I'd like Ten Hag to be given 1 more year, unless Pep Guardiola is knocking on the door saying he wants the United job. I'd like Ten Hag to be given 1 more year. But if INEOS do sack Ten Hag, they have reason to. As much as I want Ten Hag to stay, they have reason to. It has been bad. If they sacked Ten Hag for Southgate, I think you're absolutely idiots. But if you sacked Ten Hag for Tuchel, I can see it. I just personally would have kept Ten Hag. I feel like that's always sort of been my stance on the scenario as well. But big up everybody in the chat. Anana, Gay, Tosin, Kilman types questionable if any of those generally improve us. Yeah, that's the worrying thing. I'm not a big fan of all the names we're linked to. Like, Bramthwaite improves us, Elise improves us, but some of the other names we've been linked to, do they massively improve us? We've linked to a lot of Premier League players, which there's definitely a Premier League bias there. Ten Hag will definitely get top 3 at least next season, potentially get a title race as well. I mean, I'd like to think you're right, but I think realistically, Arsenal, Man City will be top 2 without a doubt. Manchester United could have a season like Liverpool last year, where Liverpool finished outside the top 4 last year, and then we're sort of in that title race, but dropped off and came 3rd. I think at best, with the right recruitment, I think it would take 2-3 years to catch City and Arsenal, but I think at best, with the right recruitment, Eric Ten Hag could get 3rd place and have a similar season to Liverpool of last year, and that would show progress, and then that would show, okay, let's back him another season, and then let's see if he can push for a title race. I think that could be a potential, but I don't think we'd win the league next season. And people got mad that Ten Hag said we wouldn't win the league next season, but we can easily get top 4. I think he's just being realistic. I mean, maybe we can win the league if we had an insane transfer window and Pep leaves City and Arsenal get a load of injuries. Like Leicester won the league, anything's possible. But I think realistically 3rd. If we had a good window. Dismissing injuries is madness. We had an insane amount, including many key players. Exactly. Again, other teams have had injuries. Including us. We've had the most injuries with Newcastle. We've had significant injuries in build-up. I think Ten Hag is not blameless, but when you look at the fact that FA Cup final, Manchester City have not lost one of their last 35 games. Rodri has not lost one of his last 74 games. Man City, Rodri 74 unbeaten streak. Man United get key players back. Ten Hag tactical masterclass. City have to go wide to get past us, but they've got very narrow-suited players. Then we exploit the space out wide, and all the goals come through Garnacho. Ten Hag got his tactics spot on in the FA Cup final. Ten Hag had a stronger squad and got his tactics spot on in the FA Cup final and beat Manchester City that haven't been beaten by anyone to win the FA Cup. People say City had an off day. No, Ten Hag's tactics were spot on, that City couldn't do anything. And for me, that's another reason of, yes, injuries and Ten Hag's not blameless. But look, when he does have the main bulk of his players back, we do beat those big sides. We do stuff as well. McKenna waiting for Ten Hag, United to sack Ten Hag. McKenna's just signed a new deal at Ipswich. I think he was playing United and Chelsea into making them one of the highest paid managers in the league. Arteta's set to sign a new deal at Arsenal to make him the highest paid manager in the league, which is crazy as well. Let's continue down the chat as well. The Ten Hag situation is reminiscent of Fergie back in the 80s. He was touted for the sack, but won the FA Cup and things started to go well. Yeah, I hope it's a Fergie situation and not a Van Gaal situation as well. Let's ask Ancelotti to join us. Look, if they line up Ancelotti or Pep to replace Ten Hag, sacking Ten Hag, not that big of an issue. If they line up Southgate to replace Ten Hag, what are you doing? What are you doing? I think we could get top 4 in a trophy next season. Me too, and I would take that as a good season. Of course, we want to win the league and then the Champions League, but you have to be realistic as well. Like, that isn't the standard of United. Top 4 and getting top 4 and celebrating top 4 should not be the standard of United, but you have to be realistic with your goals as well. Some pundits act as if we've been winning titles over the last 10 years. We have to take the right steps anywhere. Yeah, 100% to get anywhere near that again. And that's what I was saying. I'd love to win the Champions League. I'd love to win the Premier League. That's where Man United should be. But realistically, top 4 and a trophy is an amazing season. Yeah, and under Fergie, 4th place and an FA Cup wouldn't be seen as an amazing season under Fergie. But we've got to remember where we've been the last 10 years. And yes, we need to be winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. But ultimately, where we're at realistically, I think Alex is right. Pundits forget that. Pundits forget that Man United don't have this super squad that can win the league. They don't. And I think, there's definitely been unfair judgment. If Tuchel couldn't win anything last season with Bayern, where they had tons of talent, players and Kane, how on earth is he going to win anything at United? INEOS and Malta considering him. He won the Champions League. I mean, he arguably could have beat Real Madrid in the Champions League as well. With Bayern, he came second, but he came second to the best ever Bundesliga team history. Like Bayer Leverkusen, they've broken so many records. Even Hansi Flick's treble-winning Bayern Munich side wouldn't have beat that Bayer Leverkusen side to the league, because Bayer Leverkusen got more points. They broke every record. They're absolutely unbeaten. Like, he wasn't going to win the league. It was because Bayer Leverkusen were just weirdly insane the 1 year he takes over as well. Big up, Alice. Thank you very much, people. You are reading that contract extension would mean he's on trial every game, as we've seen in January. That's not good for the players. I agree. I think the thing is, and this is the big risk, if INEOS keep Ten Hag, they need to give him a new contract, because otherwise he's on trial every game, and it's going to just continue the speculation without a doubt as well. The amount that Bayern were behind was concerning, and Alex makes a good point there. But listen, people, we've spent 20 minutes talking about the manager situation, which is really boring, and I've still got a lot to get through, as you can see. So I'm going to power through this. So I want to talk about Todibo. Now, for me, Branthwaite is definitely Manchester United's number one option. Definitely Man United's number one option, and they want Branthwaite, but they've made it clear we're not going to overspend for Branthwaite. In an ideal world, Man United want two centre-backs in Branthwaite and Todibo. That's what they want. They want to sign both Branthwaite and Todibo for about £90 million combined. That will depend on sales, but in an ideal world, that's what Manchester United want. Now, Jean-Claude Todibo, apparently it's been said by Romano, he wants to move to the Premier League. He wants to move to United. He's available for £34 million. Obviously, INEOS own Nice. Jean-Claude Todibo was asked if he wants to move to Man United. He said, "I'm going to keep that for me. Nice try." You mean, if he didn't want to go to United, he'd just say no. He can't say yes out of respect to Nice fans, but he said, "I'm going to keep that to me. Nice try." Like, that basically means, yeah, of course I want to move to United, but I'm not going to say that out of respect. Todibo's literally sat there in an interview and said, "I want to move to United." He was then asked about his talks with Manchester United and Spurs in January and what happened as well. He said, "Honestly, I don't want to talk about my future because of my respect for the fans here." Exactly, fans for Nice. And the club also. But we had little discussions for sure. He confirmed he's had discussions with United, he's had discussions with Tottenham, and he basically said, "I'm not going to tell if I want to move to United," which basically means I want to move to Man United. He also spoke about INEOS and how they've changed things at Nice, and he spoke very positively of INEOS. He said, "They've changed a lot of things. They give us comfort, so there's a mood around the team to allow the team to succeed. They put a lot of importance on being around the players to give them the opportunity to have their best performance they can." He said, again, on INEOS's influence at Nice, they bring winning mentality. He's saying that Nice have brought comfort, they've improved the mood, they've brought a winning mentality to Nice, and Nice have had their best season since INEOS took over this year, despite dropping off in the league. So I definitely think Todibo's one to watch for Manchester United. Guys, 8 likes away from 100 likes, so please do hit that like button, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. I'm just going to take a quick swig of water, and then I'll get back into the stories. Someone said United are waiting for Southgate to finish the Euros. There is a rumour going about that United are not making a decision on Ten Hag because they're waiting for Southgate to finish the Euros. But hopefully that's not true as well. Alice, will Branthwaite become a Harry Maguire or John Stones? Well, John Stones came from Everton. Branthwaite's come from Everton. So let's hope that's the case as well. We've got over 450 people watching, guys. We haven't hit 100 likes yet, so please do hit that like button. Let's go for 200 likes. If literally less than half of you guys watching hit that like button, we can reach our 200 like target. But let's continue into some stories as well and get into it as well. Todibo should be the easiest deal to do with Sergio Ratcliffe's Nice connection. If we don't get Todibo, I'd be concerned. I know Branthwaite is the centre-back priority, but when Varane has left and you've got a player as good as Todibo available for £34 million, you own the club that Todibo is at, and he wants to come to Manchester United, and he is Manchester United's second choice centre-back. If I see Todibo in a Tottenham shirt or a Liverpool shirt next season, I would definitely have a lot of concern. I definitely would as well. 108 likes, bish, bash, bosh, big up everybody. So let's talk a bit more, because one of the things that Man United might do is sign Todibo and Anselmo and loan Anselmo back to Nice and return to Todibo. Now, Anselmo is one of the best 18-year-old centre-backs out there. He's the highest-rated young defender in Argentina. He's been brilliant. He's sort of seen as the reincarnation of Romero. And I think Christian Romero of Tottenham is an unbelievable centre-back. Very underrated, actually, I think, Christian Romero of Tottenham. People just think he's red cards and he's rash, but Christian Romero of Tottenham is a very good player. Anyway, it was said, Boca Juniors centre-back Aaron Anselmo is of interest to Manchester United. United are also looking to save millions by signing highly rated teenagers from their domestic rivals who they could then develop into the first-team players. United are keeping tabs on Port Vale forward Bailey De Pippa, probably said that name wrong, Blackburn striker Igor, and Australian right-back James Overy. Again, apologise if I said that wrong, but there's some of the new players they're looking at. Igor Dipta Overy, probably said that completely wrong. They're also looking to identify youngsters with high potential, where Anselmo, who is a Boca Juniors defender, is also of interest, and I think has a 15 million release clause that may have been raised to 21 million, but I couldn't find confirmation on that as well. So there are players that United are looking at. It was also said by Fabrizio Romano that Youssouf Fofana's exit in the summer window is almost guaranteed. He's not even negotiating a new deal at AS Monaco. There's interest from England and Italy, and not the only ones to watch, and not only one to watch in the upcoming weeks. Fofana will be available for £25 million because he's set to leave Monaco this summer. Manchester United inquired about signing Fofana last year on loan, but Monaco would not let him go out on loan. He was the scouts' first choice, but they went with Amrabat because they couldn't get Fofana on loan, and Ten Hag pleaded for Amrabat. Fofana is technically good. He's physically good. He will be £25 million. Captain, leadership mentality. Teams in Italy are interested in him, and that some of those teams are going to be in the Champions League. Manchester United are also interested in the guy. £25 million midfielder. Casemiro is going to probably leave and go to Saudi, and we're probably going to get £25 million for Casemiro. Get Fofana in, get it done quick. I generally say get Fofana in and get it done quick. For me, that is such a good signing, such an important signing, and will be such a big signing as well. Alice, please don't be falling into the trap of reporting every hearsay. It's all just rumours and speculation. You're fantastic at giving your analysis on possible transfers and players. I do 2 pieces of content a day, sometimes 3, and I just report on every news story. I know a lot of the news around United is rumours and stuff, but if I don't report on it, people ask me about it. They're like, Alice, what do you think of this story? I report on every Man United news story unless it's gutter garbage. And I just say, look, I think this story is true. I think this story is not true. I will report on rumours, but I will also say if this rumour I think is worth believing or not. So I try and report on every story, but I try and analyse the situation, give you what you need to know on transfers, and tell you if it's come from good sources, bad sources, if I believe it or not. Because obviously we know there's a lot of false information around United. Unfortunately, being a big club, people will write about us for clicks as well. Fofana makes too much sense. Fofana makes so much sense that I have little confidence in Man United doing it, because I feel like we don't do things that make sense. I like Fofana, but we need another midfielder as well. Completely agree. We need 2 midfielders, and that's why I want Fofana. £25 million can partner Maino and Bruno well, but also would give us the funds for a João Gomez, a Palacios, potentially a Max Weaver, another kind of player as well, even Amrabat. If we want to keep him, we need 2 midfielders. You're absolutely spot on, Alex. For me, we need Todibo, we need Branthwaite, we need Fofana, we need João Gomez, we need Elise, we need a backup striker, we need a left back. We need 7 signings. Could deal with, if we don't get Branthwaite, maybe a Hato or Calafiore that can play left back and left centre back, and that could be 6 signings because they can cover left back as well as the second left centre back. But yeah, losing Case, Ericsson, and likely Amrabat numbers alone, we need 2. Yeah, especially because we can't even rely on Mason Mount. Obviously, Mason Mount, I assume, will be back and fitter next season, but we can't rely on him as well. Someone said Amrabat leaving would be an error. I have no issue with Amrabat leaving, but because I don't think he's done enough to stay at the club, but I think he hadn't been played enough. I think had we had 10 more games this season, Amrabat had been good, potentially. I'm sort of in the mood of sign Fofana and keep Amrabat great. Keep Amrabat and don't sign any new midfielders awful. I don't mind Amrabat staying as long as we sign a new midfielder on top of Amrabat, because the manager didn't have the confidence to start Amrabat week in, week out with Kobbie and Bruno when he could have, and Amrabat's a mistake in him. I will happily keep Amrabat as a second midfield option for depth if someone gets injured, but I definitely think we need someone new in that midfield to partner Maino and Bruno if we want to go up the next step. We want to reach that next level. In my opinion, it's very important that we go out there and we go, yep, got to go in there and get someone new as well. Carlos retiring at Madrid. Apparently he was going to take the Brazil job. That was one rumour, but I don't know how true that is as well. Alice, who do you think is United's signing of the season between Onana, Maino and Højlund? Well, Maino wasn't a new signing, but if it was, it would be Maino. Probably Højlund and Onana. I mean, it's not Mount, and it's not... Probably Højlund. I know he cost a bit more than Onana, but I think Højlund has world-class potential, and I think Højlund can be a world-class player as well. Sell McTominay, keep Amrabat. I mean, I'd sell McTominay this summer. I think McTominay's been more used than most of the other midfielders this season. But I'd sell him because we know he's not good enough to start for Man United week in, week out. He's 27. He's had a good season. The way I look at it with McTominay is he's 27. He's not getting any younger. He's had a good season. He's got 2 years left on his contract and he's on low wages. This is the most money we're ever going to get for Scott McTominay if we sell him this summer. We could probably get 40 million for him. And 40 million for a player that, yeah, he's a great bench option. He's a good servant. He's a good mentality. But 40 million for a player that isn't good enough to start week in, week out, you can then invest that on a player that will be good enough to start week in, week out as well. Later, Ancelotti says he's retiring after Madrid. That makes sense. I mean, that makes complete sense. I do want to get into some other stories quickly to round up the show. It came out and it was said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe will demand Manchester United's manager to prepare for next season within a tight profit and sustainability rules in a severe end to extravagant net spending. It said that INEOS are currently reviewing Eric Ten Hag's position, and whoever is in charge this summer is likely to work within a budget. A far cry from last summer's 175 million spend. Just going to say this, every year we get told because of PSR, because of FFP, we can't spend a lot, and we end up spending a lot. I don't think it's that deep. Obviously, we can't spend loads without selling, and we can't spend ridiculous amounts because of FFP, but we can still spend a decent amount if we sell well. And when you look at Sancho, Greenwood, Casemiro, Maguire, maybe McTominay, Eriksen, Donny, Martial, the money saved on wages, all those players leaving, we could easily raise like £150 million in sales. Like, we generally could as well. What's your view on player valuations? Do they have too low of financial restrictions? I think because of wages, we can't get as much for the players we want. But I think you can get 25 million for Casemiro, 35 million for Sancho, 30 million for Greenwood. I think you can get 30 to 40 million for McTominay, 15, 20 million for Lindelof. And I'd sell those lot as well. Guys, we're so close to 500 people watching in the chat, and we're not even at 200 likes. So please do hit that like button if you have not already. Big up Stephanie, big up everybody in the chat as well. Someone said INEOS ruined niche, United next, they ain't selling or spending jack shite. Well, they've just invested a load of money into doing up Carrington. So look, I'll be honest, was I the biggest fan of INEOS coming in? No, I wanted a full sale. I was all for full sale. I was skeptical about INEOS, and I am still skeptical about INEOS. Actions speak louder than words, and we'll only really know if INEOS are good or not in 3 years' time to see if we're actually a good club or not. If we're a big mess in 3 years' time, then yeah, screw INEOS. But INEOS have got to United. They've already invested money, in their own money, in doing the training ground and completely changing that. They're not taking any money out. They're investing their own money in the stadium, the facilities. They've brought in Barada, they've brought in Ashworth, they've sacked Mercer, they've sacked Arnold. So far, so good from INEOS. Obviously, this transfer window they need to nail on. I can't judge INEOS until 3 years' time. If we're succeeding in 3 years' time, fair play INEOS. If we're a big mess, we'll know. It's a long-term project. INEOS can't change Man United around in a couple of weeks because the Glazers have neglected this club for 17 years. INEOS have probably got 3 years to undo 17 years of mess to rebuild this club because the Glazers have left the club in such a mess. You've got to remember that. You know, we've got to be somewhat fair as well. And while I don't think INEOS have been the best at Nice, and I know Todibo was speaking positively of INEOS at Nice, you know, I'm just trying to say, well, look, I'm going to adjust them properly in the future. I like that they're investing their money. I like that they're not taking money out of the club. But I do have fears. You know, Dan Ashworth isn't in. Brailsford wants Southgate and he could make a decision. That does worry me. We should go out and sign Elise to make a statement. If we went out and signed Fafana, Elise, Todibo, Branthwaite, one of those players in the next couple of days who made a statement, I'd be absolutely gassed. But I don't think we will. So talking of INEOS and what they are changing, because I will say this, INEOS are doing work. They are looking to change things. It was said that INEOS want to become more cost-effective as a business, telling staff to look after club money as if it was their own. They want to introduce a more collaborative approach at Carrington by creating new communal areas for the manager, his coaches, and other backroom staff. They want to upgrade the gym facilities at Carrington, and they want to cut loose staff who are not committed to the new regime. INEOS are making changes at United. They do want to change a lot of things about United, and they are investing their own money in. So far, so good. Let's see what you do this transfer window. Let's see what you do with the manager scenario. But ultimately, we can only judge you in a couple of years' time because it's a long-term project. And we've got another story about maybe Garnacho going to the Olympics. Considering Garnacho is going to be playing in Copa America, the last thing I want is Garnacho to go to the Olympics. I want him in pre-season. I want him fit for next year. Garnacho has played more minutes than any other player his age this season. He's going to probably go to Copa America and play a lot. I don't want him going to the Olympics because he'll turn into Pedri. I think Garnacho needs a rest. He'll probably want to play, but I think Garnacho will need a rest. I'm not a big fan of the idea of sending Garnacho to the Olympics, if I'm being honest with you. as well. First fell Sancho, then Greenwood. Yeah, Sancho to Dortmund, Greenwood to Juventus or Atletico Madrid would be ideal. Roberto De Zerbi could not handle the pressure at United. I tell you this now, I do not want Roberto De Zerbi. Thomas Tuchel, I can somewhat understand and get behind, but Roberto De Zerbi, I don't think he's an improvement on Ten Hag. I don't think he's a better manager. He plays similar football to Ten Hag. He's stubborn. I know he did one good season at Brighton, but I don't rate De Zerbi. Yeah, for me, who would be your number one to replace Varane? Probably Lenny Euro, followed by Todibo. And then Branthwaite would definitely... I think Branthwaite and Todibo would be ideal. Branthwaite and Lenny Euro would be ideal. Obviously, Tossen would be great because he's available for free. I mean, all those options are definitely ones worth looking at. But if I was to replace Varane, I think Lenny Euro would definitely be my first choice to replace Varane. I think Todibo would be my second choice. I see Branthwaite is not really a Varane replacement, but it's someone that can play left centre-back and right centre-back and give us elite depth. Like, you look at Manchester City, Ake, Akanji, Guardiola, Diaz and Stones can all play centre-back. We need 3 top centre-backs. Lissandro Martinez, either Todibo or Lenny Euro as the right centre-back, and Branthwaite is the third one for backup. Maguire will be the fourth one that sticks around, but he'll probably eventually leave the club. Yeah, I would probably say Lenny Euro in an ideal world would be my dream replacement. Is Bremer not a thing anymore? Bremer's definitely one to watch, but he's probably like 4th or 5th on the list. So it depends what happens to our other targets as well. Tuchel is the only viable candidate, but even he will force us to rip things up and start again in a couple of years. Exactly. The cycle will continue. He's never been a long-term option, and I want INEOS to end the cycle, which could involve keeping Ten Hag as well. But listen, people, I am going to wrap up the stream here. Please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching today's show. I will be back about 5 p.m. So I'll see you guys then, and bye.